welcome everybody to our debut show for the ATB NFL Pregame Show. Joining me is going to be my co-host here. We're going to start with Tony Zanatian. How you doing, Tony?
I'm doing great, Shayne. I am so excited to be on here. Excited that football's back. Excited that my team won on Thursday night with a
I'm
big
sure you are
victory.
excited.
So just happy to be here.
Absolutely. And also joining us is Vance Meek. How you doing, Vance?
Hey, what's up, Shayne? We have to be enemies today, but
we do.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that game a little bit. And also joining us is Adam here. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. Another day on Falcons, doing Falcons stuff, and just we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm interested in hear what you think about the team going into week one, but definitely first NFL Sunday of the new year, big time stuff going on here. We're going to talk about every game a little bit, do our predictions, and talk about a few major topics going on in the NFL right now. Starting with actually something that unfortunately dragged on for pretty much the whole offseason. It's kind of been mostly taken care of at this point as far as logistics of it. But we do want to get into how it's going to affect the Browns specifically. And that, of course, is the whole Deshaun Watson situation. I want to start with you, Vance. We're both in the division with the Browns. I want to kick it off with you. How do you think that the actual suspension, him being gone for the first 11 games, is going to affect this team, both, on the field and also from a headspace standpoint? What do you think they're going to be thinking about?
Well, I mean, the word distraction gets thrown around a lot around the NFL, especially over the past few years with multiple players. So I don't think it, I don't think it's as big a deal for the players. So I just think they're professionals and they're going to mostly, just do what they've got to do their jobs. They've got a lot of veterans on that team, a lot of really good players on that team. So I think they'll be okay in terms of that as far as headspace goes. However, if you look at the schedule for the first 11 games, it's not easy. They play a lot of tough games, and Jacoby Brissett, who's going to assumedly be the starter for all 11 games, they've got a bit of a gauntlet. I mean, you're talking about the Bengals, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh, of course, they play. But they've got some really tough games. They've got the Dolphins, they've got the Patriots, they've got the Chargers, they've got the Bills, they've got the Bucks. So they're going to have to struggle to get anywhere near 500. And then if Watson comes back, he hasn't played in a year and a half. He's likely not going to go 6-0 down the stretch. So Brissett and the Browns are going to have to, if they want even a shot in a very tough AFC. Brissett's got to have a career year or 2/3 of a year anyway to even get them close.
Absolutely. I do agree with that. I think it's definitely going to be tough with that starting schedule, especially the first 11 games. What do you think, Tony?
I think Vance said everything perfectly. Like, it's, as far as impact on the guys in the locker room, they are professionals. They're going to roll with Jacoby. They're going to still have high expectations for themselves. They've got a strong roster, but ultimately, when you're playing in this loaded AFC, it's going to be a real struggle to put wins on the board and get yourself in a position to be a threat when Deshaun does come back. So I expect them to have a pretty bad year overall. They're going to try to flow through that run game, which, I mean, they got a great run game. They got a pretty strong defense, but it's not going to win you games when you're playing against guys like Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Lamar Jackson. It's too difficult for them to do it with the quarterback play that they're going to have. So I don't expect great things out of them this year.
Absolutely makes sense. And how about you, Adam?
I'll rebuttal that. I think the way that they want to, I think they're going to end up, the way that they're going to end up playing is exactly how you beat those guys. Like, you don't want to get a shootout with the Chargers. You don't want to get a shootout with the Ravens. You don't want to get a shootout with those teams. So you're going to have to control clock and play good defense, right? The Browns defense was up and down last year, but I mean, they added some pieces. The secondary looks fantastic. The D-line looks great too. They added some pieces there. I would imagine Stefanski just wants to keep it simple. Like, I think the one thing Brissett did a good job in Indianapolis was playing mistake-free, like just kind of played within the system. That was really well before I think the Colts O-line really started gelling, and I don't even think Jonathan Taylor was there. He wasn't there yet. And so, I mean, like, if he could do that and have a run game and, hit the play action boot stuff, like, I think they'll be okay. Like, all they need to do is just not go 0-11, right? And then Deshaun Watson's going to come in and he's obviously going to struggle the first couple of weeks with just game speed. That's just how the NFL works. But I think the way that the Browns want to play actually favors them in a situation like this. It's like, hey, let's run the ball, let's control the clock, keep Herbert off the field, because Herbert comes on the field, like, you go 2 plays, score, right? So it's like, I do think the Browns are going to be somewhat bad this year, just because I think Watson's had the year off, and then he'll have another half a year off. So that's a long time without playing in the NFL. But I do think that's a recipe for, like, potentially them being okay rather than just say, oh my God, the Browns are awful, right?
Yeah, I think they could wind up somewhere near 500 overall in the season.
Yeah,
give or take a game. But in the AFC, that's just not going to be good enough for a playoff run this year.
But too, like, you gotta take into account, like, the Browns knew, like, he was going to get suspended, right? So this was a long-term goal, right, for them, which is like, hey, Baker got us here. That's not good enough. Now we need to try to go over the top. And obviously, I'm speaking Watson on the field, obviously. Watson obviously represents a tremendous, more talented quarterback, right? So, yeah.
And I think for me, guys, like, and I agree with pretty much everything you said, especially with you, Tony and Vance. Like, it's going to be a struggle those first 11 games, mostly because of the schedule, more so than just the quarterback not being there, right? Because if the quarterback's not going to be there, you're going to game plan for that. You're going to understand how you want to play. But like, kind of like Adam said, for me, it's similar to what the Steelers had to try to do back in 2019 whenever Ben went down and we had to go with Mason Rudolph and Devin Hodges. Like, you can win games running the ball, playing good defense even now, but in an AFC like this, you're going to need to be, probably above 500 through week 11 if you want to have a chance to actually make the playoffs. And I think that they're probably conceding that is probably not going to happen for them. And I think they're okay with that as long as things work out the last 6 games and they get a feel for what Watson's going to bring. So
I'm also super biased because my son's a Browns fan, so I'm trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I went to Browns camp actually this year, and Watson looked good. Those guys look good, and Myles Garrett was by far the biggest freak of nature I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, he's something else. So we unfortunately know all too well, Vance. But
sure. Especially me, the Bengals have struggled with the Browns.
Oh yeah, especially
recently, even with Burrow.
100%. Yeah, this just feels like a bad matchup for you guys. But I want to talk about something that's not as big of a deal now because we've kind of seen it settled. But I did want to mention it, see your guys' thoughts on it. The whole Tom Brady absence thing, where he left the team for a couple weeks and came back and kind of looked a little weird, is how I'm going to say it. Kind of had like a weird vibe going on with him. And there was all these rumors about, did he go on? One of them was like the Masked Singer. That was a whole weird thing, which that would have been great if that was the case. And then maybe some stuff that I don't even want to get into the personal stuff too much because they mentioned about him and his wife. But whatever it was, do you think it's really going to make any sort of impact? Tony, let's start with you.
Yeah. So, I have a long history with Tom Brady, just destroying us in the division every year. And so I believe that he's earned the benefit of the doubt as just like the true, like, all-time best. His preparation is unmatched, so I don't think an 11-day absence is really going to affect that too much. It does sound like it was planned a little bit. It sounds like it was something to do with his family, spend the time with his family, get things right there. And he's a pro. He's going to come back in. I think the only thing that could potentially be an issue, because chemistry with his receivers won't be an issue, but with the interior of that offensive line, all the injuries and changing of players there, that might be the only thing where you see a few hiccups. I don't think, not to get too ahead of ourselves, I don't think Dallas is the team to test that early, but that could be where they struggle early if there are any struggles resulting from this absence.
What about you, Vance?
Yeah, I agree with that. The only thing I would add to that really is that they do start out with a bit of a gauntlet schedule-wise. They've got the Cowboys, Saints, Packers, Chiefs. So if he's a little bit, and he's Tom Brady, so if he for some reason is a little bit slow getting up to speed or getting chemistry with their second or third center at this point, then that may be a small effect. The only thing that's really going to slow down Tom Brady is father time. He's undefeated, and he is 45 years old at this point. So at some point, there's going to be a season where he starts to not be Tom Brady. And so, is that this season? Time will tell.
What about you, Adam?
Oh, sorry,
that's all right.
Sorry about that, but since he's in my division, he's Tom Brady, man. At the end of the day, like, you know what I mean? He doesn't need much. He probably come in the opening day and, still toss 30 touchdowns. But I think at the end of the day, you got to look at the division too. Like, the division's not that strong anyways. So, I mean, even if he took a while to get to where he needs to be. He's definitely got that time. And, Tampa Bay, overall, they look like a decent team, except for that interior O-line is going to look different. And for pocket quarterbacks like him, that could be a problem, right? You don't want that pressure up the middle. You'd rather it come off the edges. But, we'll see. I mean, I'm not expecting much out of Atlanta. New Orleans' defensive front could cause problems. I think New Orleans, just in general, were causing problems for Tampa Bay, even when they had their good offensive line. So, I wouldn't be worried. That first 4-game stretch, like even if they went 0-4, like I said, like the division's not that good. They can go 6-0 easy in that division and be laughing coming into the playoff run at the end there.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because the question was about Brady, but I think the question marks about this team are really more around him, right? Like you said, the offensive line in front of him. We know the tackles are going to be good. Smith, especially on the left side, has been a really good pass blocker pretty much since Brady got there because he allows him to kind of just push guys by and he moves up in the pocket, protects him. Wirfs is a stud, but that interior with, Robert Haynes, he's going to be the starting center, 3rd-round pick a year ago. Is he ready to play? Rookie Luke Goddick, like it's just going to be a question mark early on. And I think pressure up the middle is obviously what has hurt Brady in the past, especially. And it's something they have to think about as they move forward into the season. But I don't think Brady is going to be the question mark for them at all. So moving on to probably actually maybe the biggest conversation in the NFL right now, outside of actually on-field play and what's going on with different teams, is Lamar Jackson contract. What is going on with that? Do the Ravens just not offer what he wanted? Did the contract structure be the issue? Like we've heard multiple things that he's turned down, like $250 million, which I doubt that unless it was structured really strangely. What do you guys think of that? Like, is that something you think is going to bleed into the season? Do you think it's going to be a problem, or is he going to take the Joe Flacco route and go out there and ball out and get a contract that's gigantic after having an interesting season last year? Let's start with you, Adam.
I just think it comes down to that guaranteed money. Like really, like that's what it looks like to me. Because like everything else, average per year was like higher than everybody that just got paid. So he must be. I mean, rightfully so. He's a former MVP. Like he obviously feels like he did that. Cleveland probably. I mean, everybody probably hates Cleveland for the way they structure that contract now and the way that quarterback. Like, I can only imagine what Justin Herbert's gonna ask for, like in a couple of years, like the sun, the moon, like you know what I mean. Like, so I don't know. Like, obviously, he's gonna play the franchise tag game probably after this year. I'm assuming, because if you're at 130 million guaranteed, and he's probably looking for around that 250 million guaranteed, that's a massive gap to be. To be at. So I think they'll play the franchise tag game, and then like maybe after a year they're like, hey, what is he now, 27, 26, 27, 28, 29, are you okay paying a guy whose biggest threat is his legs at times, right? And they might not be. They might let him walk, or they might try to trade him off of the franchise tag as well. So I know that's huge, and I know that's like that would be earth-shattering. Like Ravens fans would be like, "Hey, man, he's the faces of our franchise." But the reality is, he plays a reckless style, right? And Mark Robin like really doesn't really help him out, and he just keeps feeding him to that reckless style of getting potentially hurt and whatnot. So I could see a scenario where they say, "Hey, we'll franchise tag you this year," and then maybe potentially after that, he actually sees free agency as like a 28, 29-year-old quarterback, right?
Yeah, that would definitely be crazy. What do you think, Vance, in division opponent? What do you think about that situation?
It's almost possible, considering the Burrows contract is coming up and we're seeing what's going on with Lamar Jackson. It's almost possible to buy into the conspiracy that the Browns literally signed this contract just to screw over the rest of the AFC, and in particular the AFC North. Because right now it's causing, I don't know if havoc's the right word, but it's causing a little bit of havoc, at least with the Ravens organization, who've now had to hear about this contract all off season. Lamar's setting deadlines and saying that he's playing it off as, hey, I'll go play someplace else if they don't want me, or at least that's the vibe he gives off. And it is the guaranteed money. The NFL's the pay structure up to this point, the up to $230 million guaranteed, is a pretty large jump in what I think people are expecting to pay their quarterbacks as the next wave of free agents. So I think that's going to be kind of a watershed moment for the NFL in general as far as paying in quarterbacks and what we're going to see over these next few years. You mentioned Burrow, you mentioned Herbert. You've got a quarterback in Pittsburgh that is a few years off, but if he's good, he's going to go want big money. And some of these teams that aren't used to having to come up with large amounts of guaranteed money, and the Bengals in particular don't guarantee large amounts of money. The Browns, whether it was intentional or not, may have caused some issues with some teams.
Absolutely. And before I move on to Tony here, I do want to mention the guaranteed money part of this and how teams handle that is probably the biggest thing that's going to change with the NFL the next few years contract wise, because you look at the amount of money that they have to put like escrow checks and have money guaranteed, because it is guaranteed. So they have to have the money put away to guarantee that contract. And some owners, even though they have the money, they might not have that much cash flow all the time. They have to make
the Bengals in particular.
Yep. 100%. Exactly. So it is something that is going to change fundamentally how quarterbacks are structured. I wonder if in the near future, well, not so much near future, but the next time there's a CBA, are they going to try to adjust that to make it so maybe the cap works a little bit differently for like quarterbacks, just to kind of adjust for the amount of inflation at the quarterback position contract wise. But Tony, what do you think about the whole situation?
Yeah, I think you all nailed it by saying it's about guaranteed money. They did offer him a massive contract, but again, it wasn't that strong and guaranteed. So if you look at I think the number was around like 140 million guaranteed on the most recent reported offer. If he plays, so this year it's like 23 million. Next year, if he gets tagged, it's about 48. The following year, if he gets tagged again, escalators and whatnot, that's over 50. He's going to be making 130 guaranteed just by playing on that. So why would he sign a contract that doesn't have more than that guaranteed? I think the Ravens are going to really come to regret this. Just we've seen it every single year where a team, even if it's a bit risky at the time, signs their QB to a mega deal, and within 6 months, we're already calling it a value. Like the Josh Allen contract, the Patrick Mahomes contract. We're seeing these become values so quickly that why not just sign the guy? That you want him around. There's no point playing these games with the guaranteed money, and it's only going to come back to hurt them, because I think he's really going to ball out like the Joe Flacco way. I expect a big year out of him with more health on the team and kind of a receiving room that may not be as strong on paper, but probably fits the style of offense better. So I just think they're digging themselves a hole that gets deeper and deeper. And if he were to ever hit free agency, it wouldn't be for like another 3 years, but that would be just the craziest scenario where one of the best offensive players in the NFL is hitting free agency, still kind of in his prime. So I hope for Lamar's sake that he does get that long-term guarantee, but I think he's being smart in the way he's playing it right now.
And I think we're going to see. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Vance.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we're going to be revisiting if there's no contract before as we get to the next offseason, then we're going to be revisiting this again next year, because Lamar's not going to want to play on the franchise tag, mainly because of the style of play that Adam mentioned that he plays. He plays a style that is very more injury prone, let's say, than other quarterbacks. And if he gets hurt on the franchise tag, then he tanked his future value. So he's not going to want to play on the franchise tag, and this is going to be a problem next offseason again.
And I think for me, guys, and we talked about the guaranteed money a lot, he has every reason to expect a fully guaranteed contract, because you look at what the Browns did, and obviously that's been an outlier so far technically, but there's no justification for the Ravens to go to him and say, hey, you shouldn't get a fully guaranteed contract just because the Browns did what they did, because Lamar is a former MVP. He was on an MVP pace early last year, carrying a team that had nobody left on that roster by the time he got hurt. And he doesn't have the off the field situation that Watson had. So everything is going in his favor from a contract negotiation standpoint. And if the Ravens do try to play this hardball, I do think we're going to start to see some animosity for him. We're going to see Lamar come out and say like, hey, if you're not going to pay me, send me somewhere that will. And that's when teams start lining up, right? And that's whenever you have, guys, you're throwing offers to the Ravens, and they have to decide, what are we going to do? And they've built this team around him, especially offensively, big offensive line, ton of tight ends, couple receivers who can play, but nothing spectacular there. Like, they built the offense to play to his strengths and what they did back in 2019, especially. If they were to blow this up and not have him be there long-term, do you go to Huntley? Do you find someone else who you think can run that scheme? Like, it's just asking a lot of the rest of the team to make up for it if they did move on from him. So I definitely think
I would love to see Huntley in a full-time gig.
That would be fun. But
like as a Falcons fan, if this whatever we're doing here doesn't work out, I'd very much like for them to kick the can on Huntley.
Yeah, I think he's going to get opportunities for.
I think other teams would too. Yeah, I think there'll be some teams lined up for Huntley as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it happened with Tyrod Taylor when he was a backup in Baltimore. He got his starting shot and played well, and Huntley definitely is in line for that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely possible. So before we jump into our predictions for this week, we are going to go through, like I said, every game and talk about our game of the week at the end here. I do want to recap briefly the Bills-Rams game. And, of course, I do want to start off with our resident Bills fan here, Tony. Tell me what you saw, what you think.
The only guy not stressing today.
Right, exactly. Right.
Most relaxing Sunday I'll have all year, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, I'm just so impressed. I think, the expectations going into this season set on themselves, set by the media, just really, really high. And no team ever really lives up to when there's unanimous Super Bowl talk, all of that stuff. But to go out and do what they did at the home of the Rams, where they just hung their Super Bowl banner, really just, despite the game being tied at halftime, it never really felt close. Anything that kept the Rams in the game was the Bills shooting themselves in the foot with dumb turnovers. I was just so happy to see everything. I think they were just complete team. The defense looked awesome with Dane Jackson, a 7th-round pick in 2020, and Christian Benford, a 6th-round pick this year at corner, and holding that passing attack. I know Cooper Kupp 8, but really holding that passing attack. So, just really great things overall. Josh Allen, one of the best planets in the universe, just an absolute alien. He was hitting the short stuff when they told him to, and then the second they brought it down to single high, he's throwing bombs to Gabe Davis and Steph Diggs. Dorsey, I think, really showed out in his first game as play caller. No real concerns moving on from Dable at this point. Maybe hiccups show themselves later in the season, and that's kind of where things are, like with the adjustments once teams start to figure them out. But in game one, it was a great showing. The D-line, Von Miller, worth every penny of the 6 years, $120 million. Whether or not that plays in 5 years, who cares? It looks great right now. The interior D-line improvements. We saw Jordan Phillips come back after he had a breakout year here a few years back. And he led the team in pressures with 6, had a couple sacks of his own. Just really everybody playing just perfect football, minus those few turnovers. So I want to be cautious, but it's really hard to be after seeing that performance.
No, I 100% understand that. What do you think, Vance? How do you feel about the game?
Well, I'll talk about the other side. For the Rams side, they're defending champions, and they didn't look good. The Rams fans have to be a little bit concerned about the season at this point. I know it's game one, and people should not overreact. But Stafford struggled. I don't think that's an understatement at all. And then the receiving unit, they brought in Allen Robinson, and he really didn't do anything. I think he had 2 targets and one catch. Did he even catch the one? I kind of zoned out. But Cooper Kupp's the only receiver that really did anything. They had drops from their tight end. They had offensive line issues that the Bills obviously exploited, and Von Miller obviously most of all, who did look amazing. And I think people may have written Von Miller off a little bit and thought he's getting a little bit too old. But man, he looks like a guy who could rack up about 20 sacks this year.
Yeah.
But the Rams have to have some concerns at this point because they didn't really look good at any one particular spot. There was no bright spot for them really in the game. Stafford made a few nice throws, but is his shoulder bothering him more than the Rams let on? Maybe, because his throws didn't look all that great for the most part. He didn't look like the Stafford of old on 90% of the throws anyway. Didn't have the same velocity and same pop off of his arm when he throws. And they're going to have to find a receiver, or Cooper Kupp's may rack up 150 catches for 2,000 yards again, but it's going to be in a lot of losing efforts if they can't find somebody to complement him and or get Allen Robinson going.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Robinson has to be a big factor. And I think that I'm assuming McVay is going to ask a lot more of him and expect Stafford to throw his way a lot more in week 2, but we'll see how that goes. What did you think about the game, Adam?
I actually seen this coming from a mile away. I actually had Spaces game Thursday on the Thursday, and I said it would not shock me if the Rams look bad today, because I think the Rams are going to go as far as Stafford takes them, obviously, You don't lose Von Miller and be okay. You don't lose OBJ and look okay. But a couple of good. I thought so. First time through me watching the all 22 of it. I thought Stafford really struggled to hit those outbreaking throws, and they're kind of like a mainstay in McVay's offense. So they couldn't threaten anything by going vertically because they couldn't hit the underneath stuff. So the Bills were just like, okay, we'll play like a quarters kind of concept and be like okay with that, right? And just kept everything in front of them and rallied. Anytime you can rush 4 and get home with 4, like you're gonna have a good day. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like, and that's literally every defensive coordinator's dream, is to only rush 4 and like get consistent and constant pressure all night. And they did. And I think the Rams offensive line is going to be a bigger problem than people let on. But Stafford definitely did not look healthy. Like I thought his arm, and for a guy with such a strong arm, and he like routinely was hitting outbreaking routes all last year, no problem. For him to miss like the way he was, I just thought it was, it was the injury. So, we'll see what they become. McVay's always puts together good teams. He's really good. He makes them rally for one another. Donald's not going to let them be, a bad team. Cup's not going to let them be a bad team. I think they'll get it together. They're not going to be as dominant as last year. I definitely don't think that. There's just way too many pieces. But from the Bills' perspective, man, Josh Allen is just like every single outlier that you could like absolutely want in a quarterback. Like he's just like, if you want to run QB power with him, okay. You want to mug everything up and throw it deep, okay. You want to throw the underneath stuff, okay. You want to play a short game with him, okay. Like it's just like when you have a quarterback that can do that and your offensive line is decent, is okay and can get by, it's incredible to watch. Like he like honestly, like I know we do this exact same thing with Patrick Mahomes, is like we take them for granted because they've been so good now for like 2-3 seasons, right? But Josh Allen, like you just watch him play and just like his thought process, and then he's like, okay, we're not running the ball good, so I'm 6'4", 240 pounds. I'll run the ball myself, right? Like people don't understand that's like bigger than Derrick Henry running the ball, just as angry. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so you look at him, Stephon Diggs looked great. Gabriel Davis looks like a real threat to be like one of the more dominant number 2 receivers in the league. I'm sure James Cook's going to come along at some point in that season too. But I'm in Canada, right? Literally everybody's Bills fan. So I have to hear about it every single day. So by product, I have to like semi be a Bills fan too, because I got to understand and talk with these guys every single day. And I said it like, if I'm picking a AFC championship, it's definitely like Bills Chargers or something like that this year. I think both of those teams are look good, but Bills definitely, you know what I mean? Josh Allen put it together. You look great. So I do respect that Cooper Kupp got those garbage points though for me in fantasy, and it was great.
There you go. Yeah,
he's nice. full point PPR. You can't go wrong with Kupp, boy.
Absolutely.
That he'll always eat.
Yeah, that'll cover Bills. The Bills Rams recap. We'll try to recap every Thursday game and just games that we don't hit until Sunday. So let's get into the meat of this. The big thing everybody's going to want to know about, what are our predictions for each game. So what I want you guys to do, obviously, I'm going to name the game. You give me your score prediction, a little quick synopsis of what you think the reasoning for that is, and we'll move on game to game. So let's start with New Orleans versus Atlanta. Let's start with Tony.
So I'm gonna go with a weird one here and predict the upset. I don't really understand the New Orleans hype this season. I think people are really overlooking the loss of Sean Payton. Like, just going from Drew Brees to Jameis Winston, it's a step down. But when you have Sean Payton, he's gonna figure it out. Going from Drew Brees to Jameis Winston, and then from Sean Payton to literally anyone else, you're losing a lot of value there. And I think defensively, the Saints take a hit with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on the move to the Eagles. They didn't want to pay him. So Kyle Pitts, one-on-one with whoever they're throwing out there, is going to eat. Drake London's going to probably take Marshawn Lattimore off of Pitts and really just open things up. So I'm predicting 23-17, close game, but I think the Falcons get a little frisky and take the upset.
All right, very nice. All right, what do you think, Adam?
I don't even remember what score predictions I'm going to do. So am I okay to just pick the team to win?
Yeah, that's fine. Go for it.
So I picked Atlanta. I was actually shocked that we all picked Atlanta. I'm pretty sure in this. Did we not all pick Atlanta?
I do have New Orleans.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay. My bad. I thought I seen that. But anyways, I did take Atlanta. I think at home it's going to be bumping. New style, like a whole new, different concept for the Saints, and like Cameron Jordan, Marcus Davenport were saying this year. Earlier this week, is that like this is like we don't really know what to expect at this point because it's a whole new dynamic, right? You go from Matt Ryan, a purely pocket quarterback, to Marcus Mariota, who's an incredible scrambling threat. And then you got these big-bodied receivers. So you don't know what you're going to really get. I think the defense will be a little bit better than last year. We added some bodies there, both rookies and some decent vet options too. And then I think just natural growth from guys like Taquan Graham and Mykal Walker, who's now the starting Mike linebacker for Dean Pease there. So I think it'll be tight. I think I had something like 27-24. It's always close. It's never a blowout usually between Atlanta and New Orleans. But I think guys like Drake London, who kind of buy into rivalries, I think he's going to kind of be the guy that sets the tone for us there. And I think Atlanta's going to be really happy with the outcome today.
All right, and what about you, Vance?
Yeah, I've got a low scoring or lower scoring tie game as well. I've got Saints 23-20. I think it's going to be interesting just to see how the quarterback play goes with the two teams. Winston has played really well at times. He started out last year, I believe it was, before he got hurt, pretty solid. So we'll kind of see how it plays out. I just it was really more of a toss up than anything, but I got Saints by 3.
Yeah, for me, I got New Orleans 27, Atlanta 21. I think that right now New Orleans is just purely the more talented football team, and they have an experienced head coach, even though it's not Sean Payton. I think as long as Winston plays within himself, and Michael Thomas and Olave and Landry, all the receivers they have now can play at least well enough, I do expect them to just out-talent the Falcons as they kind of start this new rebuild. But it should be a fun game, though, I think, either way. Mm-hmm. Moving on to, this is a big game, guys, for sure, for a lot of reasons, but Cleveland versus Carolina. Let's start with Adam this time.
Yeah, I think I had Cleveland pull this one out. I just Matt Rule is just a mess. He's just how he's like, I don't know, man. Like just like every seems like every week it's just like him going completely against the grain of the NFL, and I'm just like how much, like, you paid this guy so much money, like, just get out from under it and chase Sean Payton or something. But I think I had Cleveland in a tight one too. Baker does a lot of talking, but Myles Garrett is gonna quickly shut that down. I think he's Baker's always had the red jerseys on, so he's never had the issue of dealing with Myles Garrett. So I think Myles Garrett's gonna be hyped up and ready to go today. So I think I had a close one, something like 24-21 or something like that. I think both of them talent-wise are kind of on the similar thing, but I think Cleveland will get up for this game.
Fair enough. Let's go to Vance here, talking about a division rival and also a former quarterback of our division rival. So what do you think?
Tried not to let the bias creep in here, but despite Matt Rule, I actually do have Carolina 20-19 in a very close one. I'm going to call it the Baker revenge game. We'll give him one, and then we'll see what happens from here.
And what do you think, Tony? What do you think? You buying into the Baker revenge game too, or no?
Yeah. So full disclosure, I do live in Charlotte, North Carolina, so I may have gotten some bias just through osmosis. But right. I've actually got Carolina winning relatively big, 24-13. I think overall it's going to be low scoring, but Baker in a revenge game is a different football player. And then I think Carolina's got some dogs on defense. I really like Jeremy Chin. I like the secondary that they've put together. Defensive line, I think they got a couple of guys at least who can really show out. So I'm not expecting much out of Cleveland's offense, like I said. And 24-13, go Panthers.
I also am taking Carolina 24-21. I think it's going to be a very close game, kind of like everyone other than Tony kind of feels like it'll be. I do buy into the Baker thing a little bit just because I think as long as he's healthy, he is a huge upgrade over what they had with Darnold last year. And even last year, they were able to start off relatively hot with Darnold at quarterback. So I think as long as their defense can come out and give Cleveland enough problems, Carolina should be able to put up enough points, as long as McCaffrey's good to go and then he looks good. I just feel like they're a little bit more talented on offense, obviously, and the defenses are closer than I think people think talent-wise, despite, maybe not having a Myles Garrett level player, having Brian Burns and some other guys on that team, still really good defense. Moving on to a game that is kind of all over the place, I think, in terms of what may happen because you don't know what to expect from both quarterbacks at this point, really. San Francisco versus Chicago. Let's start with Vance on this one.
Yeah, I've got the 49ers winning 21-13. So we'll get that out of the way up front. I think Trey Lance I think he's going to be very good as an NFL player, but I think he's going to have some struggles early on. And so I think it'll be a low-scoring game because of that. I really am excited to see this game because I want to watch Trey Lance and Justin Fields play, obviously. I think both of those guys are going to be really good, but I think they both are going to still have some struggles. The Bears don't really have a great team outside of Fields, and so I don't expect a lot from their offense. You'll probably see a few splash plays from Fields, but I'm going to keep this one low, 21-13 Niners.
All right, fair enough. How about you, Adam?
Man, this is tough because I do like I like 49ers as a whole, and I like Trey Lance. Justin Fields is a Buckeye, man. I got to go with the Buckeye, right? I think they got that really. I think that whole organization has that really us against the world mentality, and that sometimes can really light a fire under your butt. And I just think Justin's going to do something crazy today. I feel it, man. I feel it in my Buckeyes bones here. So. I think I had another close one though. You know what I mean? I think Trey's gonna struggle a little bit early on, but I think he'll get it together by the end of the year. Just be one of the rock star quarterbacks. I think I had something like 2017 or something really close, low scoring like that. Good defenses.
Fair enough. And how about you, Tony? What are you thinking for this game?
Yeah, so I'm already starting to regret the score that I put down because I saw that it's a damn monsoon there.
Yeah.
But I do think that the 49ers are just roster-wise, like an exceptional team compared to the Bears, who don't really have much going. I think their defense will be suffocating. I have the 49ers winning 38-14. Maybe I'll take a couple touchdowns off the board for the 49ers just because of that rain. But I think Trey Lance and Elijah Mitchell get it done on the ground and could still potentially run the score up in a game like that. Maybe a couple splash plays out of Justin Fields, like on the boot or something, a nice touchdown to Darnell Mooney to in garbage time, but I don't think it's going to be very close.
Fair enough. And I do have kind of but not a true blowout quite like you did, Tony, but I have 28-17 Niners. I think that they're going to run the ball 50-plus times. They're going to control the clock. The Bears are going to get a couple big plays just because that's what Fields is going to be able to do with Mooney and some of the other guys. But they're not ready to compete this year. And I think they know that. They want to just see what Fields can do with the roster as it is. And they're going to have a ton of money going into next year to plan for things. But in week one game against a team that I think is, pretty likely to be one of the better NFC teams this year, it feels a little too much for them to pull an upset. So I have 28-17, like I said. And let's get into Pitt versus Cincinnati, which obviously you can see here, Pittsburgh guy for me and Vance, he's a Cincinnati guy. So I'll go back to Vance for this one. What do you think for this game, Vance? I have a feeling I know where you might lean.
I've got Bengals 23-17. I do think it'll be a little closer than maybe some people think. I think the Bengals have the more talented roster right now. You can never count the Steelers out because of the head coach. Mike Tomlin is one of the best head coaches, not in the league currently, but in the league ever. What does he have? No losing seasons ever.
15 straight non-losing seasons so far.
Yeah. So you can never count any team that he's coaching out. They're going to make some plays. I'm curious to see how the quarterback situation plays out. Trubisky is sort of an unknown. Like, he has some athleticism. He's done some things here and there, but never consistently. So we'll see which Trubisky shows up today. If the good Trubisky shows up, then I think they make this a game. Their defense has some players, and they've always played well against Cincinnati anyway. The Cincinnati O-line is sort of rebuilt, and we'll see how that holds up. Obviously, it's an upgrade on the interior. But I think that's going to be a fun matchup to watch, the new Cincinnati O-line versus Watt and Hayward and those guys up front for Cleveland or for Pittsburgh. And then we'll see how the Pittsburgh secondary holds up versus Chase and Higgins.
Absolutely. What do you think here, Tony?
Yeah, so like Vance, I've got it as a pretty tight game. I think the Bengals do pull it out, but I think the Steelers cover. I got Cincinnati 23, Pittsburgh 20. I think so. Last year, the Bills had a lot of expectations, and Pittsburgh went in, road dog, and they won outright because of their defensive line just wrecking the game. TJ Watt was a monster. I expect a lot of the same of that, but I am going to give the benefit of the doubt to the team that was just in the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow throwing to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. the secondary probably can't hold up there. So Bengals win close.
All right. And what do you think, Adam?
I think I had Bengals by 6 on this one. Divisional games are always close. They're always going to be close. It's which obviously you build your teams for. But I just think out the gate, like Cincinnati is a more. I think honestly they're a much better team than they were last year. And they went to the Super Bowl. They upgraded their offensive line, upgraded their secondary a little bit, and their defense as a whole. I'm pretty sure they upgraded a little bit more. So. Yeah, I think they win by 6. I forget what the score was that I had, but I know it was almost a touchdown.
Yep, that's all right. And for me, I do, despite I'm not going to let bias get in the way of my decision making here. I do have Cincinnati 28-24.
Oh shoot, no way.
For me, I feel like right now the Steelers are way more better equipped to play against this team, and we got blown out 65-20 combined last year. Like, it just wasn't really even close in either game. This time, I do think that we're better equipped. Our defense is healthier going into the year. I think the quarterback play, pretty much no matter what, is going to be better. No offense to my former quarterback, but he just simply couldn't get it done, especially against the Bengals. The running game, I think, is a big question mark. If we can control the clock a little bit and Harris can get free and the line can hold up better than it did last year, then we could possibly pull this out. But again, I think it's just too much of a talent difference, especially at quarterback right now. So got to go with the Bengals, unfortunately. But let's move on to Philadelphia versus Detroit. Really interesting teams here. Both teams really, I think, improved a lot in the offseason, and one is kind of closer to the contending area, I think, for sure. But what do you guys think about that? Let's start with Adam again.
I actually think highly of Philadelphia this year. I think Jalen Hurts this is going to be the year that he puts it together. They did a phenomenal job building that roster this offseason. I think I picked our Philadelphia pretty handily in this one. I'm really excited to see how Jalen Hurts puts all these weapons together, and then on top of that uses obviously his own athleticism as well. But I'm stupid excited. So Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was one of my favorite players. Just as a defensive coordinator, you obviously like those chess piece kind of guys. Right. Now that he's away from New Orleans, I can actually root for him. So
right,
so me getting to see him, because the way his brand of football is just incredible. Like, he's just a tone setter, plays safety, corner, linebacker. Like, there's so many things you can do with him. The fact that New Orleans let him go, I'm excited as hell. So I think Philadelphia wins pretty. I think I almost had 10 points. I think I had a 10-point win in this one at least. I think Philadelphia is going to look real good this year.
All right. And how about you, Vance?
I've got the Eagles by 10 as well, 27-17. I like where the Lions are going, and I think they are on the cusp of becoming a good team. Once they figure out the quarterback situation, they've added some nice pieces elsewhere. But I think the Eagles and Jalen Hurts in particular, I agree with Adam. Jalen Hurts is set for a really nice year, and I've got them winning fairly handily.
All right. How about you, Tony?
Yeah, right in line. I've got Eagles 27-21. I do like the direction the Lions are headed, but the Eagles top to bottom have one of the best rosters in the NFL, and it's going to show.
Absolutely. I think for me, I do have Philadelphia winning, but a little bit closer. I actually think 28-24 is my prediction for sure. That it feels to me like the Lions are one of those teams that, outside of a few outlier games, especially even you saw last year, like they were very competitive, especially the back half of the year. I think they're going to be able to make this a game for much of it. I think that ultimately maybe it ends up like a 28-17 situation and they get a garbage time touchdown to make it look closer. But still, I think that they're going to play pretty hard. They're going to try to run the football, which with Philly's D-line might be a little bit difficult, especially with a certain player they drafted out of Georgia. But
Cox and Jordan Davis in the middle
unfair,
is just a nightmare.
Unfair.
That's a nightmare.
No, but yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see. But I do think that this final score at least is going to be relatively close. But let's move on to a game that I think a lot of people probably don't think is going to be quite as close as some of the other games we talked about. Indianapolis with their new quarterback, Matt Ryan. Adam, obviously very familiar with him. And facing a Houston team that has added a lot of talent, but most of that being rookie talent. So what do you guys think? Let's start with Tony and go back to you.
Yeah, so I wanted to pick this closer than I ended up picking it, but ultimately the Colts do have just a much better roster and coaching staff. So I have Colts 28-17. I think the first half is going to be pretty close. I think Shaquille Leonard being out on that Colts defense is going to hurt. But ultimately, the roster is going to win out. Jonathan Taylor is going to get his, and it's going to be one of those games where you see a couple touchdowns from him in the fourth quarter and things really sealed up.
Absolutely. How about you, Vance?
Colts are going to roll. I've got them 28-14. Jonathan Taylor is going to have a big day.
Yeah, I feel like that. I mean, Jonathan Taylor's kind of the equalizer here. Like, even if the passing game doesn't really hit immediately, if none of that happens, Taylor just kind of feels like, especially against a defense that's still rebuilding itself, especially interior wise, going to be hard to stop him. But what do you think, Adam? Anything different there?
Yeah, I did. I actually picked the upset here. I wanted week one, anything could go. Right? Week one, anything could go.
You're
right? Like
sure.
we don't know. We don't know what guys are. I was just like, you know what? Let's give, maybe it's me being bitter, but we'll give Matt his first L, his first week.
All right.
And a little bit of a shocker. I like what Houston's doing. I think they're a little bit of a way. So I think they're about a year away from being a year away. But I think like Dameon Pierce is a great little running back.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mills looked good last year, so like why not? Like let's see what let's get weird. I think we had I had 2019 or something on this game. Real close, like gritty little, battle there. But yeah, like why not? Let's try to go for an upset here.
That's definitely fun. I think that the potential is obviously there. It's week one. We always know that's iffy for some teams. We've seen some very weird blowouts and strange games to start the week. I mean, even the Rams-Bills game, like it was obviously they're both really good teams, but to expect any team to blow each other out in a situation like that's definitely strange. But I do have Indianapolis 31-20. I think, like you guys said, Tony and Vance, it makes too much sense to me that Taylor's just going to take over this game late. It just seems like it's inevitable, especially after what he did last year. They just locked up Quentin Nelson. Shout out to him, 4 years, $80 million as well. So he's going to be happy and ready to knock people over. So that's going to be fun. But moving on to a team, especially this maybe the team that changed themselves more than just about any other team outside of maybe another AFC team we'll talk about a little bit later. New England versus Miami Dolphins, new look Miami Dolphins. We're going to go, Tony, this division. We know you know a lot about these teams. What do you think?
Yeah, so these are the two teams in the division that would challenge the Bills if there is any challenge to the Bills. I think they're both they're going in different directions, honestly, but both relatively competent right now. What the Patriots did with their offense is weird. I don't like it.
Yeah,
what the Dolphins did with their offense is awesome. So I have the Dolphins winning 14-10. I do think there's going to be some growing pains on both sides with all the changes, and ultimately the skilled players on Miami will pull it out, but they're both going to be running a lot, and it's going to be low scoring.
Absolutely. What do you think, Adam?
I think the opposite. I think Tyreek's going to go crazy. I think Jalen, Waddle, Tyreek. I think, man, we're going to have some fun today. Like, this is going to be fun. Like, Patriots lost J.C. Jackson, this year. Patriots don't even know what the heck they want to do on offense right now. I don't even really love Mac Jones like that. He did good for a rookie quarterback, but I think the Dolphins are going to roll, man. I think it's going to be something. I think I had a touchdown win here for Dolphins, but I would not shock me. Like I was just checking, like the score, like the weather right there is like 110 right now. So these guys, they got to come down to out of that Boston weather. They got to come down to Miami in this nice humidity. Tyreek's going to be geeked up to play in his hometown, man. He's going to want to get going. So I could see Tyreek having a big game on those little 5-yard drag routes. That's all Tua's got on him.
All right. Fair enough.
What a jab.
What do you think, Vance?
Take everything Adam just said and crank it up. I've got Dolphins 31-17.
Yeah,
I think they're going to roll. I think there's something about the Dolphins, especially early in the season. They've got a lot of fire. They've got some new guys they're in. They've got this whole situation around Tua with people. There's a lot of non-believers in Tua, so I think he's going to have some motivation, and I think they roll.
Fair enough. I do have this as a lower scoring game, but Miami winning 21-20. I think it's going to be a very close game, mostly because we know New England defensively, despite losing some pieces, they always figure stuff out, especially against interdivision opponents. They know what to expect from them, even with the new look Miami team. And I think Miami is going to play better offensively this year by a lot, but I do think it will take a little bit of time just figuring out, where does Tua want to go on certain down distances? What's the game plan against certain fronts? Like, it's going to take a little bit of time getting all these guys figured out. But once it does get figured out, I will not be surprised if they do go on a bit of a run, especially in the later half of the season, and start to challenge for at least a playoff spot this year after kind of a very strange year for them last year. But let's move on to a game where it's you can consider this a revenge game, sort of, because of the circumstances. I don't think about it that way, but we'll see. We got Baltimore versus the Jets with Joe Flacco at quarterback for the Jets, the aforementioned guy I was talking about as far as a revenge game. But I don't really expect it to be like that. So what do you guys think for that? Let's start with Vance here.
Angry Lamar Jackson versus potentially broken down. Joe Flacco, I've got Ravens 24-13.
Yeah, I that's fair enough. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, I think Baltimore whaps these guys real good. The revenge game is going to be probably Joe Flacco throwing a few picks. Thinks that that Ravens secondary is going to look real good with Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams back there. So could be a long day for the Jets fans. I don't know what the score I had. I think it was a lot though. I think that was my biggest. I think it was 2 touchdowns, something like that. 31-17. I don't know.
Fair enough. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, so I think it's just going to be an absolute slaughter. I got Ravens 49-14. I've seen the Ravens come out and destroy and dismantle opponents week 1. Lamar is going to be on an absolute tear. They're mostly healthy. I actually think that since Joe Flacco's playing, I gave the Jets an extra touchdown because that offense works better when it's not Zach Wilson. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. It's Ravens by a landslide.
Fair enough. And I got them 35-17. This is going to be, I think, maybe the premier blowout warning game in the NFL. I just think it's too much to ask of Flacco and a Jets offense that really just doesn't have a lot going on right now to do much of anything. But so I do want to, just because I don't want to waste anybody's time, make sure everybody can get out and watch their games. I do want to kind of go through a quick kind of right through the rest of the games here. Just give me
I just got to add though, Tony's gearing up for Zach Wilson's first game to come back and him throw 400 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Oh, that's probably that's what would happen. Yeah, the Bills already have. They always have one of those.
Words
games,
if it happens, but
they always have one of those. But for Jacksonville versus Washington Commanders, what do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I've got the Jags pulling it out. I think the jump from Urban Meyer to literally anybody else is huge. Doug Peterson's a great coach, and so Jags 28, Commanders 24.
All right, what do you think, Vance?
I've got Commanders 24, Jags 21, close game. I do like the quarterback situations for both teams better than they did last year. But I've got a close one with the Commanders pulling out.
All right, how about you, Adam?
I had Washington 27-24. I believe I like that defensive front more than anything, and Wentz should do some things offensively that they couldn't do last year.
Fair enough. And I have Jacksonville 24, Washington 17. I think at this point, even after what we saw last year, Lawrence is a better player than Wentz at this point. He has a better team around him talent-wise, even after the season they had last year. So moving on to New York Giants versus Tennessee. What do you got for me? Let's start with Adam here.
I had Tennessee, I think, in a 6-point win, something like that. Derrick Henry's just Derrick Henry.
Right. Fair enough. How about you?
Did you say me?
Yeah, Vance.
I've got Titans by a couple scores, 27-13. The Giants are going to be starting a complete rebuild here pretty soon. They're not already in one now, depending on how you look at it. But the Titans are still too good, even with the loss of Harold Landry.
Absolutely. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I've got Titans 31-21. Their offense will probably hum despite some losses. Derrick Henry's going to take over, but I think the Giants might be able to put some points on the board against this defense.
Fair enough. I think that's possible too. I have them winning Tennessee 27-21. Do you think it's going to be a little bit more scoring than we think, but not too much there? The fun game here could be a lot of fireworks. Kansas City versus Arizona. What do you got for me, Vance?
I've got Kansas City 34-20. I think they win going away a little bit. The Cardinals have had some injury woes of their own, and the Chiefs are going to be motivated after the way last year ended. So I think they win big.
All right, how about you, Tony?
Yeah, I think Patrick Mahomes might be the best Week 1 quarterback of all time. I think he's. So I got Chiefs 45, 31 for Cardinals, and so it's going to be really high scoring, going to be really fun. But yeah, Chiefs just got the horses.
Fair enough. What do you think, Adam?
I think I had something like 37-31 Chiefs, but I'm excited. Like Patrick Mahomes is going to be eager to prove himself without Tyreek. So, and then Arizona is always fun in September. So it's going to be, after September they're not so fun, but September is good. Is the good Cardinals, right? So
absolutely,
not wrong.
Well, yeah, we'll see with Hawkins out if that still stays true. But I'm going to give 38-28 Kansas City. I think that it's just going to be too much for the Cardinals defense to do anything really about it. I think they'll be able to score on their side, obviously, but not going to be super close by the end of the day. Let's move on to really fun matchup, Las Vegas Raiders versus Chargers. What do you got for me, Tony?
Yeah, it's a damn coin flip, but I got Chargers 34-31. I think they both added a lot of fun pieces, going to be some fun offense, but ultimately Justin Herbert's going to pull it out.
What do you think, Vance?
I've got Chargers 31, Raiders 21. So a little bit pulled away maybe at the end. But yeah, I think it's just going to be on Herbert, and they added some nice pieces as well to upgrade that team.
Absolutely. What do you think, Adam?
I think I got Chargers by 3 or something like that. I think Chargers are going to be really amped up to get because Raiders knocked them out last year in a big rivalry game on Week 17 last year. So I think Herbert will be getting up. So it wouldn't shock me if Herbert gets up, tosses 5 touchdowns, and calls it a day.
Fair enough. I do have actually same score as Tony, 34-31 Chargers. I do just think Chargers just a little bit better at every facet of the game than the Raiders are at this point, especially even their offensive line. So kind of giving them the edge there. Very interesting game, especially because it's week 1 game, Green Bay versus Minnesota. Let's go back to Adam here.
I had Minnesota in this one. Green Bay's weapons, and I just generally hate Aaron Rodgers. Like I just can't. I can't do it with this guy. Honestly, I'm so sick of him. But I actually think Minnesota's actually going to be a decent little squad this year. I don't know if they're going to be a Super Bowl contender, but I think they'll be a decent little playoff team. And Justin Jefferson's a freak. Him and Jair Alexander should have some really good matchups today.
Absolutely. What do you think, Vance?
We've got a close one. Packers 27, Vikings 24. I'm going to give Rodgers the edge. I don't quite hate him as much as Adam does, but we'll give the Rodgers edge and give him a 3-point win.
Fair enough. And lastly, Tony, what you got for me?
Yeah, so I got the Vikings 28-23. So I just think that Kevin O'Connell is going to bring a lot of juice to this offense. Probably going to run a lot more 11 personnel. It's going to be fun. And the Packers are without their 2 tackles, which when you are going against Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith, that's a risky situation.
Absolutely. That is, I do have Minnesota pulling out 27-24. I think that Rodgers is going to take a few weeks to get used to his new weapons. I do ultimately think that they'll be fine. Probably not nearly as explosive, but still a very good offense. But I think Minnesota has the edge there, especially to start the season. And we're going to go to actually the Monday night game first here real quick. Denver versus Seattle. What do you got for me, Vance? What do you think for this one?
I can't read my own handwriting, but I believe I've got Broncos 21-10. It's 27-10 or 21-10. But Russell Wilson makes them much better, obviously, than they were last year. And the Seahawks are probably looking at a long year.
Fair enough. And how about you, Adam?
I did have Denver by, I think it was like 31-21. Russell Wilson's going to be great. He's already going through smacking imaginary hands at practice today. So, I think he's going to have a good day. And I'm actually really another guy I'm really excited to see in Denver is Randy Gregory. So,
yes,
I think it's going to be a real fun game for them.
All right, what do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I've got Broncos 27-17. I think that Russ coming back, he's going to make sure he wins that game. I do think the Geno Smith offense won't look as terrible as people expect, so they're going to put a couple points on the board. But ultimately, yeah, Broncos much better team.
Absolutely. I'm kind of in the same boat. I think 28-14 is my prediction. I think that Seahawks just on offense, you hope that Smith can move the ball a little bit better than you would have gotten from Locke. I think that's why he's starting. He's more experienced there with them. But ultimately, they're just not nearly as talented. I think that, Russ wins that game and kicks off his Denver career with a big win. But last game, we'll take a little bit longer with this one if you guys want, because this is our game of the week. We're going to do a segment every week here with us. We're going to talk about either the biggest game or kind of the game that most people are going to be watching, Sunday night games, things like that. Looking at Tampa Bay versus Dallas, teams that know each other well from last year. They did have to play each other in the regular season as well. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, so I've got Tampa Bay winning 31-24. I think last year the game was really exciting. It was that crazy, pass happy, it's pretty close late. I expect a lot of the same. I think the Tom Brady offense is going to be the Tom Brady offense. He's got Mike Evans and Julio Jones to throw to now. Ultimately, Dallas's team, they got a little bit worse just roster-wise. I don't think they have the players on defense to really take advantage of beating anybody of Tom Brady's level. And their offense is going to struggle. They got CeeDee Lamb. They've got Dalton Schultz. They've got their running backs. They don't have much beyond that. The Bucs defense is strong. They've got Todd Bowles as their head coach now, who's just a great coordinator and motivator of men. So I think they're going to come out and win week 1 pretty handily.
All right. How about you, Adam?
I actually had Dallas in this one. I think, Tom Brady taking a little bit of time off there, the interior O-line. And I think the good thing with Dan Quinn being there, they were able to scheme up Micah Parsons in multiple ways. So I would imagine you see a lot of A-gap blitzes from him, just to test the interior of the Tampa Bay Tampa Bay O-line. I think Chris Godwin was really a good chess piece for them, not only in the pass game, but in the run game too. Like he's a big blocker for them. He's coming off an Achilles injury, I believe it was, or a knee.
Injury. Yeah,
ACL. Yeah, ACL. So we'll see how he is. He's a good player to watch. But I like what Dallas does defensively. I know Randy Gregory left there, but Lawrence seems like he'll be able to get up for that. Michael Parsons. And their whole linebacking core, they take 15 linebackers every year, so I'm sure they'll have a good little group there. And Diggs, I know he gets cooked a lot, but I'm assuming he'll get his hands on a ball as well. So I do think I think Dallas comes out strong. Dak's Dak too. Like he's a great quarterback. Like he just any which throw you want, he can make. So him with CD Lamb, I think is going to be a little bit of a problem for Tampa Bay. I think I had a close one, 27-24 or something like that, but a real good game from those guys.
All right, and how about you, Vance?
Everything screams to pick Tampa Bay in this game, but I am agreeing with Adam here. I'm going with Dallas, despite the fact that they've lost their left tackle as well. They did bring in Jason Peters to at least keep that from being a complete black hole at left tackle. I love Micah Parsons. I think he's going to eat today. They're going to scheme up some nice pass rush situations for him. I've got the Cowboys 27-21, so not a blowout in any way, of course. But I think we've talked about Brady, and Adam mentioned that he did take some time off. He is 45 years old. Eventually, he's going to slowly, even if the great Tom Brady doesn't just have a large drop off, he's going to slowly start to have some degeneration in his skills. And I feel like this is just one right for Dallas to get an upset out of the gate and get a nice start to the season.
Absolutely, and I am going to go with Tampa Bay on my end of things here, 31-24. I think Tampa's actually going to lean on the run game a lot more in this game than maybe people expect. I think that they want to take advantage of the interior of Dallas's defensive line, try to keep Parsons off the edge and keep him a little bit more quiet than expected. And Godwin is expected to play, but again, I don't think he's going to make a huge impact immediately. He's going to take some time. So that's also part of why I think we'll see kind of more of an emphasis on the run game for them. And from Dallas' side, they're just missing some pieces. They need to get healthy and figure that out, figure the offensive line out. I think it's going to be hard to run the ball, obviously, on Tampa, like it has been for years now, with Vita Vea in there and guys like that. So I'm going to give the edge to Tampa, but that will do it for our first show here with the NFL Pregame Show with Round the Block. I want to thank you all for joining us. Thank you guys for being on here with me. Follow all of us here. You can see our @ on Twitter on the screen here if you're watching, and definitely look forward to seeing you guys next week, and we'll see how our predictions look. Hopefully we do not too bad to start off the year. So
appreciate it, guys. Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, take care. Have a happy Sunday.
Absolutely. First Sunday of the year. Let's go.
Yes, sir. Take care.